Hello Battletech enthusiasts. Today we're going to make a base with plastic wood and game ink and a few other parts. So first, I'm going to take, this is something I just got from Home Depot. It's being a little bit dried up, so I'm going to open it here a little bit. I'm doing this whole video one-handed, as you can see, because I don't have a gimbal. That if you subscribe to my channel, I will invest in a gimbal, and so you don't have to deal with shaky video and one-handed painting techniques. But anyways, here we go. I'm now squeezing out the plastic wood. See, into this little mixing cup, and what you do is this coloring step is optional, but I have noticed that if I just put plastic wood down and then put Lustrian undergrowth on it, sometimes there's an empty gap, and you can see this light colored plastic wood under it, and it doesn't look so good. So I'll add a few drops of game ink black and game ink brown in equal parts. There isn't any precise recipe for this because it'll be dependent on how much plastic wood you put down, and it's just a color, personal preference color issue anyway. But I do mix equal parts of the game ink brown and game ink black, and I'll have to mix it a couple times until it looks good. And this might so here I'm going to try mixing it. I use a bamboo stick. The bamboo stick does a pretty good job mixing it. If I could just hold it with one hand, it also makes it flow and be more liquidy, so that plastic wood by itself is quite viscous, but when you mix it with just a few drops of game ink, it becomes a lot more fluid. And then you'll notice that it will still have enough consistency to hang on to the stick, but it will flow more easily and also even itself out more when you put it on the base. Now, I didn't quite get it to be the color that I wanted, so what I'm doing is I'm adding a little more black and a little more brown, again in equal parts, to increase the darkness of the mixture. Once I get it to the color that I like, which is personal opinion, something that's dark enough to act as a backing so that it's not quite as light colored. See, consistency is now starting to look good. And now I'm going to start putting it on the base. This is a hoplite that I primed earlier in the brush priming video. Now, again, no gimbal, so you'll have to suffer. Now I've got this on the stick. I'm going to try putting it on here. It may actually be better to do this not on the holder, because I'm unable to manipulate the holder with my left hand while doing this with my right hand. Considering I'm doing this one-handed, you should be able to easily handle this job and do this yourself too. If I had two hands, this would be a lot easier. So that should tell you that this is not a difficult task. So just put it on, and it'll flow down and sort of even itself out. If you do the plastic wood straight without mixing the ink in, it will also work, and I've done that many times. It's just that it won't smooth itself out and flatten out. Okay, now I've kind of degenerated to taking it off the clamp because it was just too unstable and to do this with one hand. So now I'm going to do this way, and you don't have to worry about spills because it'll actually just wipe off with a paper towel, and also it'll come off fairly easily just with a X-Acto blade, even after it's hardened, because it is supposed to be machinable and etchable and carvable just like wood after it's dried, which it is. So if you get some on the feet accidentally, or have it somewhere where you don't want, you can carve it after the fact and salvage it or reshape it at will. And here I'm having some trouble getting it under the foot, but it will go in there. I'll just put more. Eventually it'll fill that slot up. And there it goes, a little more in there. And also make sure you just cover all the metal parts that are supposed to be ground. Make sure that they are actually. Here I'm just kind of removing it a little bit from the edges of the base. But again, that will be, I'll wipe that off. Now here I've gone to the Wolfhound, doing the same thing. This Wolfhound I had primed previously. You can see there's a very light primer on it. It's the same tan primer. Just I went out of my way to put as light a primer on it as I can, and to show you just how little primer you can use and have a mech be successfully primed. Because again, the primer isn't actually meant to color the metal. It's just meant to be an adhesion layer. But again, if you use fancy priming techniques where you actually want the priming color to have an effect on the paint job, like with pre-shading, then you actually want to color it. And that's, by the way, this is a way you can detect kind of false mechs on eBay. If someone has like this heavily primed in some strange color mech, then it's possible that it's not actually a priming job. They're just trying to cover the fact that it's a recast. It's like low quality recast. It's basically a fake mech. And they're claiming it's primer when really it's actually just a low quality recast that has been heavily painted over in order to hide that fact, and then they're claiming it's primer and then trying to sell it. And a couple years ago there used to be this guy who would sell these recasts, but I think he's gone away now, or disappeared from eBay, or retired or whatnot. But anyway, you'll find a bunch of recast mechs for sale, and they're pretty easy to spot. Usually they've got a lot of extra antennas sticking out of them that have been drilled in poorly, and then they also have this peculiar form of gray or white primer on them, and you start recognizing it after a while. If you enjoyed this video, please go hit the subscribe button at the and that way I'll be motivated to make even more videos.